Hello, I am Anand Dixit and I am based in Pune city in India. Welcome to this webinar for non-artist graphic designers. I have been working with CorelDRAW for about last 25 years and I am not a commercial artist. Now it becomes, very difficult for a non-artist to keep competing with all those graphic designers and qualified artists. So I started finding the best ways to use the tools in Draw to create my drawings. Now to overcome this inability of creating artistic illustrations which a qualified artist could do the best, I tried understanding the shapes and finding out the ways how Draw would help me in this. CorelDRAW has amazing tools and features that I regularly use with shapes, specifically for geometric shapes, normally which are easier to draw. What I feel is knowing a tool is different and using a tool to its best is different. So I would like to show you some of such tools and features and the combinations thereof that make my job easy and give me better and faster results. Okay, now let us start with drawing a ballpoint pen. Now if you look at this shape, the entire illustration has been done with just one object, a rectangle. I have transformed this rectangle in various ways to create all this illustration. While creating this, I have used the basic shape rectangle, then a shape tool to work out with these kinds of transformations, a blend tool, nudge is something you can set a distance, how much should a object or a node should travel with your up, down, left and right arrow keys. Then I have used convert to curves feature. I have used transformations with modifier keys and I have used snap to objects. Okay, let's see how I have created this. Okay, I start drawing with a rectangle. Control and space bar to convert my the cursor to a last used tool. Now I am transforming this rectangle and right mouse button click before leaving my normal button to duplicate this. Same thing here, duplicate with right mouse button click. Now this being a rectangle, I may not be able to play around with this rounded corners. I can't edit this unless I convert this to curves. So Control Q or objects, convert to curves. If you check this, Control Q is the short key for converting an object to curves. So convert to curves and this rectangle is now converted to curves. Now I have to move this I have to move this node a bit down and this node a bit up. So for doing this, I just set my nudge. When nothing is selected, you can find this option where you can set your nudge. Now I am setting this to 2 mm. Now I select this node, down arrow key to move it 2 mm. Okay. Now with modifier keys are Control, Shift or Alt or the combinations thereof. So if the nudge is set for 2 mm, I can move this node or the object by shift clicking down arrow key, double the size which I have set. It has moved to 4 mm now. Same thing here, I select the node, shift click up arrow and it is shifted by 4 mm. So double the size, double the movement with shift key and half of the nudge set movement with control key. This I'll duplicate, mirror it. Okay, while mirroring, if I'm moving this, it moves, transform as I move it. The moment I press Ctrl, it gives me the exact mirror of this, and I am duplicating this. Moving from here, again a modifier key. If I am moving without anything pressed, it moves wherever I want. But the moment I press Ctrl, it moves only on the straight line, horizontal line, or a vertical line. So pressing Ctrl will give you exact movements of the objects. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to duplicate this. Okay. I again move this with Ctrl pressed, duplicate this. Now I want to transform this. So if I start moving this, it would move from only the side which I have selected. But the moment I press Shift key, it starts moving simultaneously from both the sides, opposite sides. Okay, so now in this case I don't have to convert it to curves, as this I just want these corners to be rounded. So I can just keep it as rectangle and transform the nodes. Okay, it's a bit big, so I'll just reduce it and move it to its position. Now making these kinds of patterns, either you can go with a new object, a line, and then do it, or you can just duplicate this, transform and duplicate, move it here and duplicate, and I can blend this together and adjust the steps between this. Same thing but horizontally. I just move this, transform it and duplicate this here again, and create a blend here. Now here I may have to adjust this to a lesser number. Yeah. So this is done. Now I'll just copy this rectangle. Okay, now if you look at this blend is above this rectangle. So when I want to select the rectangle beneath this blend, I have to press Alt key so that I can go on digging one after another. So now this rectangle is selected. Now if you look at this, okay, I just I just want to make these two sides rounded. So if I go with this, all sides are getting rounded. I can press Ctrl and move this to get just one node, the selected node, to give a rounded corner. Same thing here, and that's done. Okay, again I have transformed and duplicated this. Shift click, and this is done. So we are not actually going to discuss about the fills and making it look better. If you look at this in a wireframe, you would find almost the same things here you are looking at. So filling these objects with proper colors can give you an effect, a 3D effect of the illustration. So you can just try this. What we have used, I'll just go back here. So I had used a rectangle tool, transformed it to create all those rectangles and the shapes. I used a shape tool specifically here to make the object transform to this shape, I used nudge for moving the nodes, convert to curves, transformations with modifier keys. As I said, modifier keys are Alt, Control and Shift, and I had used snap to objects. So this is how you can really use the tools, amazing tools from CorelDRAW, to create your illustrations without having any putting up efforts to get the results. Okay, now this is another feature or tools we are going to look at. While creating these logos, normally these logos are made up with using geometric shapes which are very easy to draw. You just have to think of learn or rather read the objects and think on how you can create it easily. So this logo can be created with an ellipse. Duplicate the ellipses and use VSD, that is Virtual Segment Delete tool, or you can use the trim feature. We are going to look at both the ways how this logo can be created. So for the first thing, we are going to try with trim. I just create this circle, which is this red one. I move this, Control pressed, so I am moving this in a straight line. At this position, I will duplicate with right mouse button, select both and transform it again. Okay, yeah. Okay, now again, while I am rotating this, it would rotate to any degrees as I am moving my mouse cursor. But the moment you press Control, it will rotate with a constraint of 15 degrees. So I am damn sure that this is 90 degrees rotation of the objects. Now at this position, I will duplicate this. So in total, I am having these 4 circles. Now to get the desired shape, what I need to do is I'll use this ellipse, shift click on this, so this becomes my source object and this becomes my target object. This object will be trimmed when I click on the trim button. So this is the shape, perfect shape I am getting. But now the problem is, if I want to get the same kind of shape from this circle, I'll have to trim this circle, but if I am trimming this, I get this circle, rather this shape, because this was not a circle remained after trimming. So what I just go back with Control Z. What I need to do is a simple trick for doing this. Select all 4 circles, press the plus key on your numeric pad to duplicate all the selected objects. So we have 4 circles over the first 4 ones. I'll just change the outline color for convenience. Now I select this and this, trim it to get this one. Perfect. Now instead of using this object, I'll use the older full circle to trim this one. The same thing here, older full circle to trim this one, and the same thing here to trim this one. Once done, I just have to remove the old circles which I used for trimming, and the job is done. Now if you look at this, we are having a thick line, or rather a gap between these shapes. What we'll do is, we shall okay, let me check if I have this outline. Yes, I'll put on this outline here. I open up the outline pen properties. Now this is a new feature. introduced in X7 recently. Now if you look at this, you can set the position of your outlines for the objects. Now you can either have the outline outside your object, inside your object, or like the older versions, you can have an average outline. So I need an inside outline for this, and I apply with this, and I increase the point size, say about 2. Now this outline, I'll convert this to object. So object, convert outline to object, or the short key is Ctrl Shift plus Q. By doing this, CorelDRAW would separate this outline as a new object for you. So now we have this object. I'm sorry, we'll have to fill this and then apply. Okay, doing the same thing here with 2 points and inside. Okay, object, convert outline to object. Now we have this object as well as this. So now I'll use this red object to trim the blue one. The moment I do this, I start getting the gap of this thickness. So we'll repeat on all 3 objects. I'll fill the color, open up the outline box, inside outline with 2 points, and Shift Ctrl Q to convert outline to object. Using this, I trim this one, delete this, select and trim, delete this, select this and trim the blue one. Now if you want to eliminate the step of keeping on deleting the things, you can use the Docker, where you can choose the source object, target object, and you have the options whether you want to keep the source object or you want to keep both the objects. So this is how we have done this with trimming. Now let us move on to an easier way of doing this. Okay, you can find this virtual segment delete tool in the tool set called crop tool set. So this is in the set of third tool set from top. With this tool, you can delete virtual segments. Virtual segments are the areas which are identified with the intersections. So if I am clicking this particular segment is deleted. So virtually formed segments can be deleted. Now a new modifier key function was added to this tool. If I am clicking on this, it will delete only one segment. Instead, what I can do is I can press Alt key and draw a freehand line which will delete all the segments intersecting the lines. So just one click and moving it around, you can delete multiple virtual segments. Now in this case I need this particular shape, right? So I'll just delete this, then I'll delete this. Now I want to keep this shape, so I'll just drag this over these 2 segments. I'll drag on these 2 and I'll drag on these 2. So with this, my shape is ready. But the problem here is, because we have used a virtual segment delete tool, all my ellipses which were closed shapes have now become open shapes. So I won't be able to fill colors into it. So if you look at this, it shows like the color is filled, but unless this object is closed, the color won't be shown. So for this, I take help of Smart Fill tool. Okay, with this Smart Fill tool, you can set the fill color, you can set the outline thickness and outline color. Now this Smart Fill tool works with any of these areas, enclosed areas I should say, whether or not it has been created with open shapes or closed shapes. So this enclosed area which is virtually closed, I can just click here to get the shapes. Now I change the color to red and click here and here. Now if I am selecting these 4 objects, the only thing I need to I'll have to delete these shapes which I don't need now. But this becomes more easier than using the trim tool. You know, many users ask me, is this the right way to do the job? See, frankly speaking, in CorelDRAW, there is no answer to this. I can't say yes, I can't say no to this. So what I feel is, one should use all the tools, or rather should use the tools according to the comfort level. If one is comfortable with using trim tool, go ahead with that. Virtual segment delete tool, if a user finds it comfortable, he can use that. The only thing is you have to be perfect in creating the shapes. Okay, now we'll move on to another demonstration. Creating jigsaw puzzle shapes. In this we are going to use rectangle tool, ellipse tool, virtual segment delete tool, smart fill, trim and weld. Now if you look at this shape, to explain you better, I'll just move on to another page where we'll have these demonstrations. Actually, this will be my masterpiece or master objects, a set of master objects which I am going to use to create the puzzle shapes. So for creating this master, I am pressing Ctrl while drawing this rectangle because I want exact square. Now I'll just drag this one. Now this is the shape I need to create. So the easiest way I could find for creating this shape is something like this. Created an oval. I'll put on this snap to objects is on, guidelines I don't need. So snapping to objects, I have put this to on. If you look at this, you would see this a quadrant. So I would be grabbing this object on the quadrant. I am moving this. Again at this position, I'll duplicate this because I am sure that I am on the quadrant of that. Now I'll mirror this. For getting exact mirror, I'll press Ctrl and duplicate this. Now I set the nudge to 2 mm. It's already set for 2 mm. So I move this 2 and to 4 mm. So now if I want to move this directly to 4 mm, I just press shift and left arrow and it moves by 4 mm. Now this shape, I'll just transform this shape and adjust it at the center. Let me zoom this for you. Now I take this virtual segment delete tool and I start removing all those virtual segments which I don't need. So Alt is pressed and I am moving this So this is the shape which I wanted. So Smart Fill tool and click inside this and I get this shape. So rest all. Okay, now if I am selecting this is another feature with modifier key feature, I should say. If I am selecting this, only this much is selected and this part is left. Why this happens is, when I am dragging this, all the objects that are inside the mark you selection are selected. When I want all the objects that are even touching my mark you selections, I just have to press Alt key. So everything is removed now. So now this is the shape. I'll just transform this to adjust. Place this at the center and perfectly move this in a straight line and match this edge and leave it. For mirroring, again control to get exact mirror of this and duplicate. Move this and adjust exactly at this edge. Now these two, I'll group it together. Control G to group it. And second click to get the rotation handles for this grouped object. I'll move this center of rotation because I want these objects to be rotated along the edge of this square. So again, when I am moving this, it would rotate in any degrees. The moment I press Control, I get the ticks at 15 degree constant. Once done, I'll just press Control R, that is the repeat, last action repeat key. Control R to repeat the last action. And my template or the master object is ready with this. So I'll keep this master object intact, duplicate this and start creating the jigsaw puzzle shapes. So I select, okay, I'll have to ungroup these. Control U to ungroup. I select this, I select this and trim this one. I select this and again trim this one. This one I'll weld with this. And again this I'll weld with this. So this is the first shape I have got. Now again I'll duplicate this, keeping the master intact. Now if this shape is a continuous shape on this side, right side of this object, then in this case I would need this part to fit here. So I need to trim this. Okay, again I'll have to ungroup this. I'll use this shape to trim. This maybe I can keep as it is, or I can just weld this, because I haven't yet created the shape above this shape required on this side of this shape. Same thing here, I can just trim this and I'll again okay, let us weld this. So now if you look at this, you can just move this and it would perfectly fit to this. So in the similar way, you can just go on creating any jigsaw puzzle pieces out of this master object. So the thing is, you just have to create two objects which are, this one and this one. Position it properly and the entire jigsaw puzzle will be ready within minutes. Okay, this is something different kind of job where you need to work with the files on which somebody else has already worked in some other application. Now this is an AutoCAD file which I have imported in my CorelDRAW file, which I need for putting it in a brochure, a sales brochure for some residential complex. Now this file has been worked on by an architect where he has done his job. But the thing is, there are so many objects which I really don't need to be included in my sales brochure. Or I need to make some changes like making filling up the walls, putting up the flooring, or making it look better with adding some components for the furniture, like how the flat or how the house would look after putting up the furniture. So these kinds of things I need to do it, and unfortunately the thing is, AutoCAD files have lots of objects, and most of the objects will be of this kind. Each and every part would be different or separated from each other. So the problem here is I can't fill in these areas easily. So there are two ways which I normally follow. One is Smart Fill tool, or the other one is join the curves. Now if you want to work with Smart Fill tool, it is a bit easier. You just have to click within the area and the enclosed area is filled with the color, which we have seen in our earlier tutorial also, earlier example. The problem here now is you're adding one more object. You're adding one more object to your CorelDRAW file along with all these objects. Now, so making your CorelDRAW file a bit heavier for processing. I would recommend using Smart Fill tool only if the user is using Objects Manager Docker and is working in layers. Now this is the view of your Object Manager. This is the page which we are working on, and these are the layers which have been imported, or you can even open a DWG file from AutoCAD into CorelDRAW. Either you can import it or you can just open that file. Now these are the layers which the architect has created. Normally what I do is I add one layer, naming it, say, my walls. Once this layer is added, this layer is added, what I do is I activate the layer and click on this. So whatever object is created on this particular layer. Once I finish with all of the walls, filling up all of the walls, I just go and edit this original walls layer which the architect has created, or I just go and safely delete that layer. But the thing is, the user will have to know about using the layers. So there is another way you can use this to do it with join curves. Now this feature definitely is a very helpful and fantastic feature because it saves a lot of time. Okay, I'll have to go back to this Docker's Object Manager and I'll have to put on the walls which I had made it hidden, which I had hidden it. Okay, so I'll just remove this which I had created. Now the join curves is a feature. I'll just open up the Docker for this. You have to go to objects and click on join curves. Now this Docker is open. Now here you can select multiple objects, multiple open objects, and set the gap tolerance between the nodes and just click apply. It will join all the nodes falling within the gap tolerance and give you a closed curve out of this. So now in this case I need to select everything that is on the that is forming the wall here. The easiest way I found, or rather I use, is I select one of the objects similar to all which I want to select, go to edit, find and replace, and I ask CorelDRAW, I give a command to CorelDRAW to find all the similar objects. So find objects, and here you have this choice, find objects that match the currently selected object. So I just click on this, next. Now here you can edit your finding parameters. By editing you can choose any of the types of the objects you want to find. You can set the fills you want to find. You can specify the outline properties of the object, or you can go with the envelope thing also. So in this case I don't want to change anything, so I just go with next. Now here I can specify the curve properties, so I can set the number of points in the curves. So in this case maybe I am not sure whether every object which I need has got just 2 nodes, so I just click this off, so that even if all rest of the parameters are found, even if they have some more nodes or some other parameters in the nodes and all, so still it would be found. So I just click OK, next. So I can set the outline properties here. I just leave it as it is and I click on finish and click on find all. The moment I do this, CorelDRAW just finds each and every object which falls into my parameters. So getting it back here, I open up the curves. Okay, I'll just close this. Once it is found by CorelDRAW, I'll just close this, go to join curves Docker, and I'll set, because see I want to join these points from the selected curves, so the gap tolerance can be even 0.5 mm also. So I just set it to 0.5 and click apply to this. The moment I do this, the whole thing, the whole object is now joined, the points are joined, and this becomes a closed curve now. The only thing we need to understand is this particular curve and this particular curve are two different curves which needs to be combined together. So if you look at this, CorelDRAW has joined the curves, joined the nodes, but it has kept all the objects separate. So total 11 objects are there on this walls. So with Control L or objects and combine, Control L, I'll just combine all of these 11 objects to make one object, and now I can fill this with any color I want. So this is how you can go with the find and replace or with the smart fill tool. Similar, okay, this illustration has already been cleared up a lot before I use this in my brochures, but still there are some areas where I need to clear up some of the objects, like the hatching thing, where I want to replace this hatching with something else, like maybe a good kind of a flooring which I want to print in my brochures. So for finding this, I would select one of these objects, go to edit, find and replace, find objects, find similar objects matching your current object properties, next, and just finish, because I just want to find all the parameters from this object. Find all, close this, and this is done. Okay, now in this case you just have to be sure that any other object, unnecessary object, is not selected. So I just have to deselect this. Okay, and delete this. So this particular area is cleared within seconds. So this is how I normally work with AutoCAD files which I need to get it in CorelDRAW. In fact, I would suggest you to go to corel.com, where you would find my written tutorial on the same subject, which covers more options for using joining curves or playing around with these kinds of jobs. Okay, let us move on to look at the contour tool. Now this contours can be used in various ways, various reasons I should say. If you look at this font is Cooper Black, which is not a open face font. Now I can add a look like a open face font to any of the fonts by using this contour tool and trimming the contour results. I'll just show you how I have done this. Just typing this letter where I want to add the effect to it, changing the font to any desired font. So this is it. Select contour tool and add an inside contour. Desired, you can just go on setting, you can set the desired distance offset for this. Fill color, I would change it to white. Now this white part is a contour of this black one. Now I'll just separate this out with Control K, or break it apart with Object, break contour group apart. The moment I break this apart, these two sections or these two objects are different, are separated out. I'll select the original black text, press Control key to make sure that I am moving in a straight line, and duplicate this with right mouse button click. I'll just change the color for your convenience. So now I have this black original lettering. This is the result of contour, and this is a same copy, a shifted copy of the original letters. I'll just adjust it. Yeah, and now using this new text or the object, I'll trim this one. Once I have trimmed this, I don't need this object, so I delete this, and you get the result. So a combination of adding a contour, breaking it apart, and then trimming the contour results can give you similar results. I can use it in my regional language fonts also, where normally you have a very less choice for regional languages. The fonts are the number of fonts available would be very less. In that case, for regional languages, I use this kind of a thing to give a look of open face. Similarly, this contour tool can be used to create a cut line for die punching. Now this kind of a thing. Now it becomes difficult, for these illustrations I have brought up from Corel Content Exchange, and these illustrations have been made up with different small parts. So various and number of objects have been used here. If I select this, you would find this illustration has been made up of 35 objects. Now if I am adding a contour to this object, it will add contour to all of these objects, which I really don't need, and I'll have to clean up the whole thing. Instead, I can use object, shaping, and create boundary. This feature will create an outer boundary from the selected objects. So this is the result you are getting out of the boundary feature. Once the boundary is created, I can just go and add a contour to this. Offset, of course, can be set to say 1.5 mm. So I should get this cut line, which I can use to create a die, cutting die for the sticker, and maybe if I don't need, see this contour has created over this object. So if it is possible, you can just go ahead and break this apart, Control K to break this apart, shift click on this object, remove this object, and this cut line for my die punch is ready. I hope you have enjoyed watching this webinar, and thank you for joining us.